So, good morning everybody. I welcome you all to this wonderful, exciting day, the third day of the Torino conference. This day has started with beautiful sunshine. It will now start with an, I believe, exciting session in the plenary. And I should also remind you that we have the gala evening today. And as you see, this begins at 7 in the afternoon, in the evening, and shuttle buses will bring you back and to the event and back. So you're all welcome to join us there. As Carol pointed out yesterday, in the plenaries we didn't choose to have a fixed topic for the whole session, but rather to have each speaker represent one of the themes of our conference. And it is today my pleasure to introduce two speakers, two talks on two of the themes. One of the themes is protecting the user, and this will be our first talk, security-related talk, which will be given by Claudia Nathanson. And she is the Chief Information Security Officer at Diageo, a company which I was told is especially famous for its drinks. And you probably... But before joining Diageo, she was a long time at British Telecom, and they're responsible for security implementation plans and also at the management level. Claudia will introduce to us her vision, and I will start a presentation now. Her vision on security awareness at the board level of a big company. The floor is yours. Oops.
Oh, okay, move it down. All right, good morning, everyone. First of all, thank you very much to Torino for the invitation to be with you this morning. I was really trying to see if I could make it, and I'm so happy to be here. This morning, what I want to share with you is born out of experiences that I've had not only at British Telecom, which was a totally different organization to Diageo. I'll get on to Diageo. But British Telecom is a critical national infrastructure. In that situation, we had about 800,000 end users there. Diageo is different. The one thing that remained the same was the importance of having discussion at the board level to be able to implement and successfully embed a security program. And I just want to share some of that experience with yourselves. You may have others that you could add to it. I just feel that in sharing this as practitioners, it may help us. So let's get going. What about Diageo? You may know Diageo from its products rather than from the name. So Diageo is the world's leading premium drinks company. We are responsible for a number of these brands. We are in 185 markets in 85 countries. We have about 20,000 people. And the brands, as a branded company, is very important. So for example, we have 15 million glasses of Guinness drunk around the world every day. Everywhere, somewhere in the world, at least 4 bottles of Johnny Walker are consumed per second. And if any of you are from Ireland, 45% of the total milk production in Ireland goes into the making of Baileys. So it's quite a diverse situation. And one of the things is that when you look on a branded company such as that, I mean, you all know Smirnoff. I mean, that is about 17 million bottles of that per year. But when you look on a branded company such as that, where Diageo comes from the word dia, and that is from the Latin word for day, geo from the word world, from the Greek world, and you put those two together, their strapline is every day somewhere in the world, someone is celebrating either the large moments in their life or the small ones with something of their products. Okay, from a security nightmare perspective, the strapline in our company is freedom to succeed. So as a security person, we have two challenges. Freedom to succeed, meaning that in the culture, you are going to try to protect the assets of the culture of the company without changing the culture of the company. So that's a little bit about Diageo. So how do we actually implement security in an organization where the brand and the legacy of brands are so important? And I can tell you that in British Telecom, as with Diageo, the first most important thing has always been winning the hearts and mind at the board level. Because if we get the board on our side, if we get the top of the organization on your side, emulating the top is much easier. Buy-in from your stakeholders across the company and down the other layers of the company become much easier. So one of the things that we found that we had to do was, first of all, to become a brand itself in Diageo. And you then are part of the culture. And I'm going to come on to that a little bit more. But what were some of the discussions that we knew we had to take place at the board and the perceptions that we had to overcome? Well, if you look on some of them, not just only at the board, but from our own stakeholders, traditionally they say security as a business barrier. So first of all, we are the group that is always saying no. We are not seen as business enablers. Generally, that is not the perception of security. I'm not sure if that's the case in your own organization. And it was the same at British Telecom as well. I think in today's world, what they expect us to say from security is no, but tell us why and give us the information. Because a lot of times we are not forthcoming with the reason. It's either, no, you can't do it. The fact is that most security teams are seen as overheads. They are costs. They are not revenue generating. And so these are some of the perceptions that we have had to fight against. And we'll come on to how we actually break those perceptions down. What are the discussions that we have to change that as well? Today, it's all about risk and the risk appetite. And I know for many years, across the whole security industry, we have battled with the ROI. We used to speak a lot about the return on investment. I think today in organizations, ROI must mean about the return, the risk on investment, rather than the return on investment. Very difficult for you to calculate security return on investment. It is much easier to release the business value if you talk about the risk on the investment, because the board understands risk. At the board level, security isn't spelled with an S, it's spelled with a C. It's about cash, it's about cost. And so trying to talk about and calculate the return on investment isn't actually going to help in the long run. I think one of the things is that I recently looked at a research by McAfee which said across Europe, when they looked at a number of organizations, that 48% of us viewed security as little more than just dealing with risks brought on by the latest malware activities or by vulnerabilities that we felt that hackers could actually exploit. Few saw security as an end-to-end process and had programs in which to demonstrate that. And I think that, again, is very much what I'm talking about when we say the security practice moves from a reactive much more to a proactive type of program is what we need to be seen as. And again, working with stakeholders is very, very important. We say we want to deal with the top, but the stakeholders are often the barriers in terms of implementing the program, and we're going to go a little bit more into that. Talk about shareholder responsibility was important and is important to myself, because one of the things is that I think security and security teams take on a lot of the accountability for the success of the security program. So they expect you to fix it, and that is one of the reasons why they see us as business as usual. The thing is that I think if we push the accountability for security to our stakeholders, so every end user is vital, is important. in the whole success of the program, then I think that the accountability then spreads out across the organization and the team is less seen as being responsible for security. The other thing that we need to take hold of is the fact that in our population today and in organizations, I think our end users are much more technically savvy because of the services that they get in their own home, because of their own services that they have on a day-to-day basis. They are much more used to using technology than before. And I think when we are looking at implementing programs, we need to look at that and not at that point say that, well, okay, we're dealing with a set of end users who don't know about technology and therefore it's all about saying no. I think you can release it. For example, we are now living in a world of second lives. Even Diageo has a virtual bar on Second Life. I mean, I don't know how it's going to help you, but you can't get drunk on it, but maybe. But I mean, Hilton Hotel is there. I mean, everybody has a plot on Second Life. But it's these things. They expect you, and they will want us to start looking at wikis in an organization that probably would not have gone that way before. It's a world of podcasts for them. It's about security on demand. And so knowing that people in their own home lives are used to this way of working, I do think that as practitioners we have to begin to understand how we're going to roll our programs out, which will enable people to have this both at home and at work. One of the things, if we look at number 8, I think, which was about, Number 8, when we looked at best practice. That is another one that is interesting to me again because I find that organizations like to think about best practice as benchmarking against the industry and compliance, and that's a big one for boards as well because I think that a lot of money is spent, too much money is being spent on trying to be compliant, and what happens is that we are caught up in millions within our own organization trying to be compliant. For me, best practice is about what is best for the organization, not just a one size, this is what the industry is. And if we are trying to maintain the culture of our organization, then it has to be about what's best for the organization. So one of the first things that I think that would be on the way to success is choosing a sponsor. So how do you begin the dialogue at board level? Find a sponsor. Find someone who you feel is in the most senior position that you can begin to have this dialogue with. And we are going to go through some of the components that in having that dialogue with that sponsor first, I think that that is going to help the whole progress to the board. But finally, the last one, number 10, knowing the business of your organization is important. Because many of us would say, well, my business is not like Diageo. Well, neither was British Telecom, neither was a lot of the blue chip companies that I've worked with over the years. And not all of them are global, some are local, some are SMEs. The problem is that every organization has a business side to it. They must have HR, they must have marketing, finance. There's always the business side to an organization. What I think that as security practitioners we have done over the years is that we continue to work in a silo and we feel that the business of our organization is not ours. Well, today, I do not think that we can continue to actually have that view. And so the branded approach that I definitely have taken within Diageo and has worked again is looking on the security practice as something that I feel that my end users should feel. So what does security feel like? And how does the brand? So for example, we went as far as to have the brand just standing just aside with Smirnoff, just like Bailey's, just like the rest of them. We have the videos. Many times you may have seen adverts for many of these types of drinks. We developed our own video for security, capturing the culture of the way that they do drinks. And now we have wall-to-wall banks in the organization that play our own advertisements, and you would never know, but the security video is in there just like another brand. We developed our own brand of cocktails. I don't know, you may want to taste my perfect password. It has been a hit in the bar. There's Data Splash if you are into protecting intellectual property. There's Cool Blue, which is all about Wi-Fi. All of these drinks and cocktails are available in every Diageo bar. Anytime you're in London, drop in, and I'm sure I'll be able to give you one of those. The rooms, very much if you visit a Diageo office, one of the first things that you will find is that every room, the whole place, is almost as if you're walking in a brand. So every room is based off of a different drink. There's a security room, and it's all about the various cocktails with the various policies on the cocktail sides as well. So it's very much about trying to change the way and the culture of my end users without changing the culture of the organization. So what are some of the things that I discuss and have always discussed at a board level? The first one is about mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions are very important to most large organizations. And again, Diageo has been built up over the years over a number of mergers and acquisitions, whether it be from Seagrams, whether it be from Guinness. How many people knew that Diageo even owned Burger King? Did anyone? One? Two? Right. Oh, shareholders? Yeah, so acquisitions into things like Pillsbury and areas. We just sold off Burger King last year. How many people know that, for example, Diageo owns the Glen Eagles Hotel where we had the G8 conference? There you go. Two more shareholders. So again, mergers and acquisitions is very, and Diageo keeps buying much more. And from a security point of view, if they say to you that they're having a merger on Thursday and they expect the networks to be interconnected and you say, I don't think so, then what are you doing? Are you stopping a merger? Are you seeing to be a business barrier? You're certainly not going to be a business enabler. And so we recognize that mergers and acquisitions in the last year, for example, if you look at it from when I looked at the latest research, and I got this from the Corporate Executive Board's research as well, is that the amount in value from a Europe standpoint rose from 1.5 trillion to 2.2 trillion, and that was in 1 year, and that was from 04 to 05. And if you look on those figures, you know that that is quite real. Because if you look at even the Barclays AMB Ambro, which is that merger that is impending, that is said to be worth at 65 billion euros. So mergers and acquisitions is something that we have to be quite versed in and be able to talk about. Offshoring and outsourcing contracts is very real. Because in today's world as well, you'll have smaller organizations talking about, and the large ones as well, talking about should they actually outsource their security infrastructure. We have already outsourced a lot of our networks and systems. And there's a lot of things that goes with that against organizations, and you need to be able to guide them in the best way on those. Offshoring and outsourcing contracts, if you look on business processes alone, in last year, that figure had risen to 109 billion. So, and that was just for business processes alone. So offshoring and outsourcing, very important. Third-party connections is a way of life today. We have contractors, we have consultants, we have third-party people in terms of our partners, joint ventures. We have people who we need to just actually come in, our customers need to take data off our networks. Third-party connections on average in any organizations runs between 85 to 310 connections on average in any organization today. Really big conversations to be had with the board, especially when we're talking about intellectual property loss, intellectual leakage. An organization like Diageo, very, very important because every day we are developing a new secret. It was a big secret for a long time when we were working on Smirnoff Ice as the first ready-to-drink sort of. Competitors would kill for that. Many of you have probably read about the Coca-Cola Pepsi case where an administrator tried to sell the trade secrets there. So it's a very, very big area for us in terms of third-party connections. And increasing technological dependency, again, I mentioned that I'm not going to spend too much on that. We all know that, and as I said to you, trying to embrace new technologies, all of the new technologies that they put under the Web 2.0 types of technologies. The board probably doesn't know anything about it, but they want to have a conversation about it. And we need to help them to say what they can do or what could be done, what couldn't be done. Risk footprints and proactive compliance is something that I want to urge a lot of teams to look at. Recently, risk footprints for us are very important because it tells us, releases the business value. So when you go through a risk footprint, it says to the organization, what is the risk to the organization if the security team was not there? What is the impact of not having that team? Because at that point, you can begin to put a figure to it. And what is the likelihood? Very much like we'd normally do if we're handling stuff, but it comes out as a business value amount. And the other day, I had the great pleasure of, I don't teach that often nowadays in the transit course, in Terena's transit course, and I actually ran some teams through the risk exercise to let them release some of the information that they could have with their senior management, and it worked. And I think that if more and more of us were able to go through the risk exercise, we would be able to have this discussion. What is the risk of not having the program? What is the risk of not having an awareness? What is the risk to the organization of an unsuccessful program if they didn't support it from a resource point of view? These are things that nobody would challenge them with. You can't just say, well, you need one. Well, why? Data protection, I'm not going to go about that because I think that in Europe we're really on top of data protection. What I will say is that what I have found within organizations is that information classification is not a process that is really understood and embedded. And so I find that there's a lot of statistics about laptops, for example, going missing. But if you ask them about how much data, what is the type of data that has been lost, how much information has been lost from your organization, I think that it is not on the same in terms of knowing how many laptops. Again, what sort of information has gone missing? And for organizations, for example, who have to operate within the US market, we are all running around with the latest compliance called Ediscovery, which came out on the 1st of December last year. Does anybody here know about Ediscovery? Electronic discovery? That's an interesting compliance because what it says is, for organizations like Diageo, again, we are always up against class action suits, for example, in this type of business. And in those sort of circumstances, the courts can say, we need all electronic records from this period, and it could be on 3 words. It could be financial as well. It could be anything. The court then gives you a specific period of time to hand over that information. If you are not able to hand over that information in a timely manner and in keeping with the time that was given to you, then you will face a fine. So I know that there is a large bank which many of you love dearly and know dearly. Their fine the other day was 1.6 billion. There was a second organization got a 63 million fine. The electronic discovery compliance is even more interesting. It says, this is not based on class action suit, this is based on civil litigation. So if I'm an employee of Diageo and I have a dispute with somebody about the border of the fence, it could be triggered by a divorce proceedings. If they feel that that employee used the systems at your workplace to probably send information regarding that particular situation or the court matter, they can then say, we need a search of your documents. And again, if you cannot come up with it in a timely manner, you're up for a big fine. So again, the whole area of data and protection, electronic records management, archiving, that sort of area, very important to us. Convergence, I just wanted to touch on that because there is IT convergence, we all know that, but there's another big area of convergence for us. And as a CISO, my role has changed drastically, and it's about combining the physical and the logical. A lot of us have electronic access systems into our organizations, but we never even ever look on those logs. What we are doing today is combining, we're putting CCTV cameras on our networks. We're combining electronic access into organizations with access onto the networks. some people will begin the discussion and say there's a single point of failure. There is already 7 points of failure because of physical security and logical security. So the physical breaks down and people have access to our information. Again, I told you about executive buy-in, so I won't dwell on that, and leading edge technologies. And again, the last thing that I would say here is about policy endorsement. Many times people say they have policies. I've said to them, have they been signed off at the top of your organization? They say no. My answer is you don't have policies. Policies that have not been endorsed by the top of your organization are not policies. Anyway, if you are to go into a judicial matter, you may find that it breaks down at that point. People can always say they didn't know about it. Who signed them off? Where did these come from? And again, policy endorsement is very important. So when we're talking about releasing the value as practitioners, there are 2 areas that we need to look on. One is the reputational area and one is revenue. Because the higher up you go in the organization, they're going to want to talk about looking at the risk, looking at the business, looking at what you can offer, to anything that you can offer the organization to make sure that their stakeholders and their shareholders and their customers can maintain confidence in the company. We touched on compliance and the fines that are there, and therefore why it's important for us to work with them. No organization wants to be in the media for the wrong reasons. They want to be in there for the right reasons, and so adverse media publicity, giving the organization and talking to the organization about that is important. I had to speak to my organization and get them on board. We have over 200 websites. Very interesting, when I went to Diageo, I said to them, how many websites do we have? I just need to begin maybe testing these websites and cross-scripting anything we need to talk about it. Because for us, legal purchasing age is very important. We cannot sell alcohol to underage children. So the point of the matter is this: if we have a site that is selling alcohol and a child can go on there and purchase alcohol who is not of the legal purchasing age for that country, we are into a very, very big court action if we allow that. So going and knowing the websites that are there is important. And one of the big things that I said is, can I just check how many websites you have? No, listen, Claudia, I assure you it's 50, you know, maybe. I said, okay, I'll go do a test myself. There are now 200 and odd websites. They did not know about 160 of it, almost like that. So the thing is really testing. But the fact is that the organization wanted to know. And therefore, you can have that sort of discussion with your own organization, and they begin to sit up and take notice, because responsibility is very important. Even in our own, from an environmental point of view, how we pollute waters if we are doing beer. Beer production is a lot of water involved in the beer production as well. Revenue, of course, how do you contribute to that? Organic growth as opposed to growth by mergers. This is growth independent of that. Profit, new markets, new share. Those things will be important, and you can have a say in that. And I think once you start to work with stakeholders across the company, which says, let me be involved in what is your main focus, then you become a part of the process for projects. You begin to be part of that discussion when they start a project, not at the end of the project. And that's when you actually get the buy-in. So, quickly, if we go through this, know your benchmarks, risk. I think you need to understand the business. At any point in time, any quarter, anybody on our security team can tell you what brand is doing well. We know what is the target for any area of our organization at any time. Awareness programs for me is not about being able to tell the organization how many people sat through the 45 slides that you had on your security awareness day. That sheep dipping isn't it. It's about how many stay aware. And it's not about implementing security, it's about embedding security. So again, creating the right metrics that you can understand how has your end user changed, how has their ways of working changed. That is very important. And understanding that the role, security teams tend to have the same roles, and they've had them the same, they do the same things for the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, while technology changes every day, and the organization changes every day, and the organization's focus changes every day. And again, I think that teams need to just sit back and look at that. This slide here, I put it there because I'm trying to see how long I can keep that slide there for years until we have addressed some of these things. But I find that on this slide, if you pick out a lot of these things, these are things that help you to have shareholder, stakeholder conversations and conversations that lead you to the board. Look at laptop. If you look at something like that, I'm not going to go through each of them, but if you look at something like that, you can have a conversation here because this has everything to do with information and the physical. So again, if you look on a contractor due to start work at a competitor site, that one, for example, that has all the smackings of HR. HR in organizations are battling what we call joiners, movers, and leavers. Who has joined the organization, who has left, who has moved. And again, by getting into those discussions, identity and access management, all of those conversations are conversations that lead us to the board because they get the stakeholders involved, marketing, digital marketing, intellectual property rights, legal. There is an enormous amount of discussions that can be had just by conversations. And one of the things that I have found that has been very useful both in Diageo and in British Telecom has been forming a stakeholder forum where you get the main and key senior people from across the functions, that's HR, marketing, finance, and you get them into a security forum and have these discussions all the time. So, if I leave you with this challenge and charter, which is I saying that from a security perspective, I think one of the best ways for us to look at how we can release value and how we can challenge ourselves as practitioners to come up with a much more strategical, a much more open, free, creative program, I think is stepping back and taking the technology out of security first. Put technology to the side first. Look on security as an art form first. What is it? How would I make people look at it as a brand? A brand is something that has feeling. It has a lot of emotion. It is about having people buy into it. And I think if we look on our practices like that, that's the first part, that's the hard part, that's the challenge. Then when we're finished, we add the technology. How many times have I had marketing coming down to us and say, well, this is what I need security to do. And we say, no, we're security, you're marketing. You tell us what it is that you want to do, and then we will have the discussion of helping you to make that happen. So I think if we look on it as the clay, we have our whole organization there, we have our end users there, we know exactly the program that we want to do. The technology is what is going to seal this perfect work of art for us in the organization. So I just want to leave you with this because I know you will continue to drink my brands. But I need to tell you that while you're doing so, I need you to drink responsibly. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Claudia, for this interesting perspective, very new to us. Other discussions, questions?
Does anybody want Baileys? I'm sure.
Some people suggest that a security breach notification law would help security people get access to the top level of their companies because it would become more clear that there were serious risks to the company in terms of PR, in terms of losing data. Would you agree with that?
No, not anymore. I must admit that for a long time we used to do that out of frustration. Because we were saying, what is it that would actually, make these people sit up and take notice? But I will say that in today's world, I don't think it works anymore at the board. And I think it almost fosters this belief from them that, well, if anything is wrong, let the security people go fix it. It's business as usual. And I don't want them to see the security teams. I don't want them to see incident handlers as business as usual. I want them to see that it is much more than that. And so I think that no longer is the way that I embrace it. But I agree with you. It's where I started at that trend of thought many, many years ago. But from experience, I feel that it is much better to have that conversation around the business side. How can I save you money? How can operational efficiencies help the business? This is what I'm protecting the business. And I think protecting the assets, always talk about the assets to me, always gets them. Is that it?
We have time for more questions?
Good morning, comrades. I come from the Belgian government. My question is the following. When it is associated to a commercial enterprise, a commercial organization, as you mentioned, there is indeed a clear description of saying, okay, if you do not do that, you will lose this, you will lose your brand and things like that. How do you address this kind of topic when you are in front of public organization, government organization, where there is no, in a certain sense, that objective of making profit and making money and making a brand?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a good question. And I was hoping that we didn't have the time, but let me just bring that out a little bit more, because that's important to many of you here as well. The thing is, the thing that unites that discussion is always information. It's always about data as well. Because if we take profit away, what we have is that a lot of these organizations will have, now let's take for example, you will have information on the people that are in that organization. So whether it's employees, whether it's people, it could be students if you're in a university. One part of it is about information and the protection of that. The other side about it is reputation, because it's not just about reputation from a selling point of view, but if your organization is seen to be, as I said, in the news for the wrong reasons, whether it is going to be you're having attacks coming from your organization going to somewhere else. For example, one of the things that we organizations grapple with nowadays is email content filtering. That's not a very easy thing to do across countries, because even in Europe we have to work with the works councils to be able to do things like that. So there are a number of areas, but I think that the key thing around that thing is information, and another key area would be identity and access management. Access into buildings, as I said, and access onto your networks, information about it, protection of that information. There are a whole side of other areas that I feel could make you have that discussion and make them sit up. And the third one is the one that I touched on, which was about risk. If you actually do a risk exercise that says to them, what if we weren't here? Now, it's not just about if you weren't here, I'd go out and outsource it. No. The risk process actually puts you in a position of saying, this is the difference between having us in-house as opposed to outside of the organization. This is why I'm saying outsourcing and those discussions. But I would urge teams and organizations who have never done a risk exercise down to a granular level that releases the business value. And I'm not just talking about retail, I'm talking about business to the organization. Remember I said every organization has a business side. I would really encourage people to do that, because I think you will begin to see your worth. Because I say that they think of security, I tell you, as business as usual. They think of security as being aligned to information technology. A lot of the security teams either report in under information systems and information technology, which is an area which is always under budget cut, driving down costs, but delivering service. How can you win if you are classed in that section? No, I don't think that security should be aligned with technology. We should be aligned with protecting the business. I think that's it. I told you if I was having a tasting session, I would have more, more questions. No questions? Well, I thank you very much for listening.
Thanks again, Claudia. And this is also a good opportunity because you gave us the perspective that protecting a user is closely related to enabling users, and this is the second theme we're addressing when we change the topic a bit and go to the topic of mobile computing or the future of mobile computing, and I have the pleasure to welcome Professor Othein Herzog. Sorry, here he was working with IBM, and he was appointed about 15 years ago as a professor of artificial intelligence at the University of Bremen, and since then he has turned out to be located at the northern coast of Germany, has turned out to be something like a beacon of innovation. He founded and leads two large centers, one of the technology Center of Informatics, and the other one is the Mobile Research Center, and he presently conducts a large project on what is called the Mobile City Bremen, and this is, I believe, what Professor Herzog will talk about, and we're looking forward to his talk. Whoops. Right now. So, the floor is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the nice introduction. And my talk is going to be a bit different compared to the last one. And you might think also how this talk is connected to the subject of your conference. And of course, there is some connection. There are even two connections to the subject of your conference. The first one is, of course, mobile computing without networks, without data transmission is no mobile computing. We are hungry for bandwidth all over the place. And of course, this bandwidth has to be done with wireless devices. And the second subject of my talk will also be that we have set up a network which fosters mobile computing in Bremen. And when I'm talking about mobile computing, I'm not talking about PDAs or mobile phones, maybe also about PDAs and mobile phones, but I'm talking also about devices like that. This is a comparably big device. Actually, it's a PC with an 80 gig disk, 1 gig of main memory. It has wireless LAN, normal LAN, and Bluetooth built in. It has a very nice screen, and it has everything you need to do computing, even a keyboard. And this is one thing you can just wear with you, not in your clothes yet, it's just a pound or so. But these are devices we start to use in the, let's say, daily work. So in contrast, for instance, to the talks yesterday, I'm talking about the micro level of communication, and we like to apply mobile computing, wearable computing also, to working environments. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the motivation, why it's an important subject. Then I will describe very briefly how we build up the networking structures in Bremen, how they evolved. And then I will come to the subject of wearable computing, give some examples, will give a definition about it, and then I will show you how we implemented, let's say, project within that network. I will give two examples for that, and I will conclude with some lessons learned and some conclusion. Okay, and there's a lot of names here. Some of my co-workers are co-authors of this talk and of the paper. Oops. Let me see. Something is happening here. Here we are. Okay, so let me, for the motivation, just let me give you a few hints where mobile computing could be applied to. Logistics is one thing. You really need mobile computing because logistics people are on the move all over the place, and they are not just at desks, and they need computer support. In production, it's about the same. You need computing support, you need access to data while you are working on the production line. You may need support to do some complex tasks. So you need mobile computing there too. And healthcare is another area where people are also on the move all the time. They don't like to sit at desks and do their computing on PCs. They like to do their computing, their documentation, for instance, they have to do on the spot. So we have a pervasive computing vision, and by the Wireless World Research Forum in 2006, it was said that 7 trillion wireless devices will serve 7 billion people by 2017. The numbers are not that big yet, but they are very much growing. And mobile computing is about empowering the user on the move, of course, to get the right information at the right time. And so mobile computing will really be a key technology of this century, and mobile solutions, using mobile computing, are the main focus of ICT activities in Bremen. And I cannot assume that everybody of you knows anything about Bremen, so I have one chart showing a few details about Bremen. Bremen is one of the 16 German federal states. It's a two-city state. Actually, the second city is 60 kilometers apart. It's Bremerhaven. Actually, it's a port the Bremen people bought about 150 years ago. We have a population of about 700,000 people. This is about 200,000 more than Copenhagen has. And our main economic sectors are today foreign trade, logistics, food industry. Kraft, for instance, is at Bremen. Car manufacturing, we have the second largest Daimler Chrysler plant in Europe, in Bremen. And actually they make the CLK and the new C-Series there. And we have EADS and Airbus in Bremen. And of course, we have normal accessibility, international airport, despite our small size, railways, ports, and the Autobahn. So it wasn't that all the time. There were very big shipyards in Bremen. In the 60s, the first one went down. In the 90s, the second and very large one went down. So there was really a question in Bremen what to do, how to replace those those heavy industries. And when I came back from a sabbatical in US, I brought with me the idea of mobile applications, because I had found there a company which built computers which you could wear at your belt. So I brought with me the idea of wearable computing, ubiquitous computing, and mobile communication, and we thought a lot about it, whether it would be worthwhile to go into that research area. And finally, we decided it was something different. It was not normal computing, it was something different. And so we got the university to play with us, and we established also with the local business development organization the topic mobile solution as a strategic regional topic. And then we founded a small organization in the TCI, in the Center for Computing Technologies, the Wearable, where we brought also people from outside in, and we focused really on mobile information processing. The next step was that we initiated, together with business development again, with some companies, the Mobile Solution Group, and that was the first quite big local network which strengthened the mobile computing aspect and focused also activities of companies into this area. And so several companies tried to add mobile application to their product portfolio. And that culminated in some strategy paper of the state of Bremen in 2001, where mobile solutions really became politically accepted. There was a paper called Innovision 2010, which laid down the Bremen strategy in, let's say, technology. And it's written in that paper that Bremen wants to be among the 10 high-tech regions of Germany by 2010. In 2001, we were at place 56. And I can tell you, we are well underway in the meantime. And so we did also some contracts with Microsoft and Deutsche Telekom targeted at mobile solutions. So we had also Microsoft and Deutsche Telekom tied into that network. There was a strong cooperation, as you can think, between government, industry, and science. In the meantime, this mobile solution group has more than 40 enterprises in Bremen, which really do mobile solution business. And they offer mobile services and prepare the market for mobile application. It's not that easy like selling, let's say, desktop products, but it's starting really good now. We also found out that Bremen is representative for the German telecommunications market. So TNS Emnet set up a company in Bremen which can do market research for telecommunication products. So these products can be tested in Bremen. We also test usability and acceptance for the German market in the state of Bremen. And finally, we built up a mobile research center because innovation has to come from some place. We do research and technology transfer into mobile solutions, and in the meantime, we have 24 research groups with more than 140 full-time researchers. And what's also very important, we have set up a demonstration center in cooperation with industry where people can come and can do some hands-on trials and see what mobile solutions are all about. So this is a picture. I don't want to go very much into detail, but you may imagine that there is really a good combination of research on the one hand and mobile solution marketing and putting into practice on the other hand. And this is tied together through that demonstration center. This is actually a company which was built out from this mobile solution group. Several companies came together and initiated this company. It has an industrial focus on logistics, automotive, media, and also, of course, selling to OEMs. And they do everything to market and sell mobile solutions, especially also in the RFID business. This, I don't want to go into detail, just gives the names of the groups which are part of the Mobile Research Center. As I already mentioned, there are 140 full-time researchers. We focus on industrial sectors. We do our research in application-oriented way, and of course, it's also interdisciplinary. We can offer the full range of ICT technologies, including industrial design. So we have mobile communication, we have mobile hardware, we have middleware, which means software, of course. We offer mobile services, mobile sensors. Of course, we have to look very hard into human-computer interfaces because mobile solutions usually require completely new interfaces, and I will come to that later also. We consult also about business models, product design, and about the design process. This is a short impression on the demo center, which gives visitors a hands-on approach to mobile computing, mobile solutions, and we present their future mobile technologies and application systems. We upgrade research results for the transfer into products and services and show those results there. And we also provide product development support in test markets, for instance, in respect to usability, to tests for usability and user acceptance. We have a lot of demonstrators and prototypes there, and I will talk only very briefly about the first three of them. Mobile knowledge management is a very important aspect of mobile solutions, because if you are, for instance, in front of an airplane and have to do some maintenance there, usually it takes a lot of knowledge, a lot of data also, but also a lot of knowledge and of information to perform a maintenance task. And it's not only what's written there, but it's also the additional information which is shared among the maintenance people, which has to be added to the information, so every maintenance worker can access this knowledge also by the other people. And the same applies also to mobile assistance systems, because mobile systems usually should assist the people, and I will come to that later, what's the difference in respect, for instance, to normal, let's say, desktop work. And a third very important aspect is textile integration of electronic components, because if you have mobile solutions and you want to use mobile solutions, let's say in the daily work processes, you just cannot have very bulky equipment. You have to integrate the equipment into your clothing, and that means you have to perform some textile integration of the needed electronic components. And I can tell you there are nowadays even textiles which provide you with data buses and power buses, so you don't need additional wiring, for instance. Now I would like to come to this special instantiation of mobile solutions, namely wearable computing. And this is an example for wearable computing, but this is not what I really mean. Wearable computing is really a new way to use a computer. For instance, at the left-hand side, here you see a head-mounted display, and that's what we use if we want to provide, let's say, a visual interface for wearable computing. And this, for instance, can be used very, this is a case of aircraft maintenance where it really has to be used to provide the information the technician needs. And we have another one here. This is a prototype of an Israeli head-mounted display, which is a see-through display. And the image, it's a VGA image, is mirrored from the top of that glass, and I can show you here, into that glass. The electronics is here, and this is just glass. And so you see through and have a VGA image of your screen about 2 meters in front of you. So you even don't need to adapt your eyes to the image. And what you see at the lower side here is a small computer which has been built by ETH Zurich. It's a computer built at the buckle of your belt, built into the buckle of your belt. And the battery, for instance, is in the belt. All the external peripherals can be also attached at the belt, for instance, USB or VGA. So, what are applications wearable computing can be used for? This is, for instance, a vest where wearable computing is being used for maintaining cranes. This is an application in telecommunications for testing antennas. This is could be used for mobile gaming. This is actually a keyboard built into a jacket, into a code, right? And we used that when we built a mobile application for Airbus. And this is a very famous example for mobile computing. It's done by the company called Simple, and it's actually a computer used in logistics in warehousing. So we have a lot of devices and a lot of applications those devices can be used for. And what's the point up to now is that there is no architecture for wearable computing yet. So we worked on an architecture on how to combine carry-on appliances like mobile phones or PDAs with attachable peripherals like the display, head-mounted display, like a keypad or other peripherals. GPS, for instance, is very important for location-based services. And then we have embedded microsystems like sensors for signal processing, for power generation. Power is a big problem which has not been solved yet completely. And that has to communicate with a textile electronics interface, with functional textiles, where you have data and power lines, where you have interfaces to electronics. Sensing can be done there, also maybe power generation, and some electrodes can also put there. And you need, of course, a body area network where all these devices can communicate to each other. And one of the problems you might imagine is, for instance, how to get the data to a head-mounted display. But even there, standards are underway where you have wireless transfer of those data. And actually, we use all kinds of telecommunication devices we can get our hands on. We use, of course, UTMS, we use GSM, we use DACT if it's necessary. We use Bluetooth, and we are in real need of high bandwidth Bluetooth. We use Zigbee, we use everything, ultra-wideband, everything we can get. And that we tried to order in those 3 levels of a system architecture. And of course, there is some middleware where we control all these different kinds of devices. And of course, this is also a dynamic configuration. So it's nothing static, which you configure once and it's done for, let's say, a long time, but it can change very, very quickly and very often, because it also depends on devices in your environment. So it really got to be dynamically reconfigurable, and that it has to function as a system. This is an example, for instance, which comes also out of the ETH, where you have very small sensors, where you get information from your environment, and you interpret that information and conclude what the user is doing at that point in time, and then you support him by providing the appropriate information. This is a set of other interfaces. At the left-hand side, there is a glove, which was one of our first gloves, used in application for crane servicing. Whoops, sorry. And this is a newer glove which replaces actually a mouse, and which has also other sensors built in. And this has about the same functionality, and it's much smaller. And this is one example on how we think maintenance of complex systems could be done and what are the ingredients for such an application. We again have this belt-mounted computer. We have the head-mounted display. We have wireless communication, because you really need the information. And what's very essential, all these devices have to function hands-free. Right? You really should not be forced to use your hands to manipulate those devices. They just have to function in your environment. So this is a very strong indication that variable computing is really a new paradigm for the computer support for the work, and we express it in a way that we say we work with and not at the computer anymore. We bring the computer to the work and not the work to the computer anymore. And the computer is just used as an assistant during and for a primary manual task. So there is really a very sharp contrast between office work and mobile work, because in the office you manipulate virtual objects like PowerPoint objects inside the computer, and in the mobile work usually manipulates real objects in the real world, just including some computer assistance. And of course, all your attention usually and your hands are needed to interact with the real world objects. That means your mobile application has to provide you with location-based systems, assistance. It got to support your through the context sensing. So the system got to find out what you want to do and then give you all the necessary information. And in addition, you have to take care not to overload the user with too much information. So we have now, I have shown you the network we have set up in the state of Bremen, and I have given you some impression on what mobile solutions and mobile computing is good for. And of course, in a network you always need some project, so the network is busy and has some common goals. And so we worked very hard to set up a project, actually an integrated European Union project in the beginning, and that project started in 2004, and it included also a lot of enterprises in Bremen. And if you ask how we could do that, because in European Union project you cannot have too many partners from one country, so I can tell you just that we asked some companies to combine their forces and create one new company where each of them participates. So, and they followed our advice. So we had just one partner in Bremen, which was then again, or can again, use the technologies we achieve in that project in the state of Bremen. So it's quite a big integrated project. The total budget is 24 million euro. The funding is 14 million euro. We coordinate the project. We have 42 partners. Most of them, or many of them, are quite big partners. Overall, we have to spend 170 people years. And what we already have done, we have created an open wearable computing group as a central standardization board. And we have also created an international forum on applied wearable computing, which is really, in the meantime, a worldwide event which focuses on mobile applications. It has taken place this year the 4th time. These are some of our 42 partners, and as you can see, the big players, big worldwide players, or most of the big worldwide players are part of this project. Some of them have quite small logos, but they are in there. So Microsoft, SAP, Thales, ETH, Siemens, Hewlett-Packard, and EADS, Airbus, and many others. And we have created 4 scenarios which we work on. The first scenario, where we work together with the Paris Fire Brigade, is on emergency response in general. And we work on mobile applications which increase the firefighter safety through better coordination and also through better communication. And we also support the single fireman by augmenting the human senses, for instance. It's not really augmented reality, but it's a lot of sensors which enable them, for instance, to find their way back in a very harsh environment, or which enable them, for instance, to sense heat, right? Which is quite important for them. Before they open the door, they really want to know or want to sense what's behind that door, right? Whether the fire is already there, for instance, or not. The next scenario is in production. There we work together with Skoda in Czechia. And those people are in real need for permanent access to information. I don't know whether you know it, but if 1 minute where they are out of production costs at least 5,000 euro. So they really need data very urgently, for instance, to do maintenance on the line. And of course, although it's very important to support the workers in doing their job, because there are quite complicated jobs in car manufacturing. And what's important also, of course, is that you have to provide the information in a unified way, and usually this information is distributed among various sources. Oops. No. Next scenario is on wearable computing in maintenance, and there we work together with EADS. It's about inspection of aircraft, about maintenance and repair. And as we found out together with those people, that they really use a huge amount of their time just to collect information about the job to be done. And that can be about half of their working time, where they just collect information to be able to do some maintenance task afterwards. So it's very important for them to give them in an intelligent way the manuals when they are on their job. So you have to provide, for instance, a head-mounted display there. You have to provide context-sensitive help, and it got to be adaptive. And in addition, they requested also that they should be capable, and I think that's very unique also for mobile solutions, that they should be capable to add additional information to the manuals while they are on the job. So this mobile solution for maintenance allows them to input also information and, in the end, knowledge into the joint database. And the fourth scenario is on healthcare. There we work together with an Austrian company which operates hospitals. And here the important points are that the physicians have to get access to patient information during a physical examination, not afterwards, not before, but during that physical examination. They really want to have on-the-spot documentation by the examining physician, and of course they wanted us also to coordinate clinical processes. And those four scenarios are quite independent of each other, and they are quite representative for different types of mobile solutions. And I don't want to go into detail, and this is a table, and also on the next slide is a table which was created by Paul Lukovic from the University of Passau, who is also a partner in that project. And you can see, for instance, where the environment is described very briefly, of course, that at EADS we have a very diverse environment, and it's non-fixed, it's changing all the time, and maybe some infrastructure, communication infrastructure is available. At Skoda we have a very static environment, it's very structured, it's fixed, and there is an elaborate infrastructure. At Gespak, that's in the hospital, we have also a highly structured environment, also static, also strong infrastructure. And At the Paris Fire Brigade, we have a very unstructured environment, which is very dynamic, which is hazardous, and there is no infrastructure at all. And I don't want to go into the other ones, but the next one, for instance, shows, for instance, in the communication line, that at EADS, they want to have voice calls with images, for instance. So we need high bandwidth communication there. We don't need very much communication at Skoda. We need collaboration between systems in the hospital. And also in BSPP, we need simple offline messages. We need real-time voice communication and occasionally also video and images. So there is quite a host of activity types in those 4 scenarios. And I want to show you a brief video from one scenario, namely from a ward round at that hospital. This video actually was done by SAP. The hardware which is shown here, was our first prototype, so it's quite bulky.
Unterstützen soll, ist klein und unauffällig zu tragen. Kernstück ist ein Computer von der Größe einer Gürtelschnalle, der
the sound is in German, unfortunately.
des Krankenhauses verbunden
This is Dr. Ademer, who puts on his equipment.
Dazu kommen ein RFID-Reader.
Can we put the sound of the video down? Thank you. It's an RFID reader, and it's also an accelerometer in the second one, and he wears also a headset, and he's going now for the morning rounds. He enters the room together with a nurse, and the first thing he does is scanning the patient ID, which is an RFID tag, and as soon as this one is scanned, the patient data is automatically displayed from the hospital information system at the bedside monitor. And as he is not allowed to touch anything, he has to do gesture navigation through these data. And as you will see in a second, he now navigates through these structures, and he gets to the data he wants to see at that real moment. Actually, we still work with them in respect to these gestures, but I want to get here. He now gives a voice command, so the system knows now that because he points to his earset, that he wants to give the voice command. This input is transferred to the PDA of the nurse, and the nurse, because she is standing close to him, is now authorized to order an X-ray. And this is just an interface to the hospital information system. And so she can enter all the necessary information there, which is put together with his voice command, and the order of the X-ray is done. And what I wanted to point out is, of course, as computer scientists, you don't, in the beginning, you don't think very much of, let's say, the social compatibility of gestures. So in the beginning, we had also a gesture like that, right? And the patients didn't like that at all. Okay, the next example. So we developed a lot of technology in that integrated project, which is one, the biggest, of course, of our project, which is one of quite a lot of projects. And so the point is, how do you get that technology or those technologies transferred into practice? Because usually there is really a big step between innovation and available innovation on the one hand, and putting that innovation into products or services on the other hand. So we thought about this this living lab approach, and as it happened, the Daimler Chrysler people we used to work with went to their headquarters and told them, actually there is a lot of mobile solutions in Bremen, why don't you create a center of competence at the Daimler Chrysler plant in Bremen for mobility, for mobile applications. And they were successful, so they have a center for mobility. But that doesn't give us the opportunity yet, or not the real opportunity yet, to show them all our technologies and somehow help them to implement mobile solutions for their production processes. So we set up a joint initiative of Daimler Chrysler, of Siemens, of companies from the Mobile Solution Group, and of course of the Mobile Research Center. And we put up a contract, and we use this living lab for mobility as a common platform for innovation in the automotive domain. And that really is supposed to close the gap between research and the applications. So we have innovation on the one side, we have new business on the other side, and of course, through market forces and science and the living lab, those innovations should ultimately go into new business. And as you know, usually there is quite a lot of time which is needed once you have an innovation to bring it into the application. And it's our experience that such a living lab approach really shortens that time to a considerable amount. And the way we do it to have this decrease in time to market is we send technology scouts into the plant. Right? And those technology scouts talk to the people, to the managers, of course. Also, they look at the people, what the people are doing. And they know the technologies, so they transfer mentally the available technologies into potential applications. And there's always a list of, let's say, between 10 and 20 potential applications which the scouts find in the plant. And then in a joint board, it will be decided about, of course, about priorities and which applications to do. And this scheme is working very well to get, on the one hand, innovations into applications and help the end user, of course, right? Because that's the real reason why one does technology transfer. In the end, there should be a product or a service which really gives some return on investment. So the Living Lab has a real nice portfolio. It's something like a living interface between industry and research and development. And we really identify, evaluate, and test those technologies. And because we experience the real problems and the potential applications, we provide practical experiences also. We explore the new developments. We use parallel development cycles because we don't go into the plant to implement them directly in the plant. We implement those applications in a place where Daimler Chrysler has located some people and the other companies also. So we work together in one building, and we really already set up project-specific and strategic cooperations. And of course, we have to do also the education of the people who got to do the mobile applications in the end. What were the lessons learned from our networking approach in Bremen and also from the IP and the Living Lab? It's really necessary to follow a holistic approach. It's completely useless to embark on single projects. You really got to have a strategy which builds up maybe of locally funded projects, which builds up from projects which are maybe funded from the federal government in Germany and by the European Union. And you got to have a strategy behind that, so you always get the right projects funded. And you really have to take into account what's needed in the region you are working in. And then you have to find the place of research and of innovation in the concert of all those different enterprises in politics and also in business development. And what's very important and what is very seldom done in science is marketing, marketing, and marketing. We do marketing in Bremen all the time, and almost all the time some enterprises come to us and tell us, we didn't hear anything of you yet. So marketing also for technologies, for scientific results is very important. So it's very crucial in such an approach to identify the proper ICT field you want to work on. Innovations really just don't happen by themselves. You have to set up innovation processes, for instance, like a living lab that you got to establish. And it's really necessary, and that's also your subject here at Terina, you have to set up a network of academia, economy, and politics, which really cultivate an infrastructure for innovative technologies which are directed towards product development. That's what I wanted to communicate to you. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Professor Herzog, for this illustrative, rich perspective. There are many topics touched, many room for questions, discussions. Okay.
Good morning. Comrade Zekon from the Belgian government. I have two questions. The first one is related to the living labs. As you did mention, it's also a European project, and you are part of the network of living labs, which is created by the Finland presidency. In relation with this association, between brackets, how do you exchange and how do you share your experiences with the other peers of those networks of living labs? And the second question, and you also did mention a bit relation with the public-private partnership where the government put money. In Belgium, we have two of those living labs. One is funded also part from the government. And I wanted to know from Bremen, is it also supported by the government? And if so, how? Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, there is a European movement on living labs, and we work together with them, right? So this is your first question. And of course, the government of Bremen supports also the living lab approach through the Mobile Research Center.
How do you share the experiences with the other peers who are also living labs?
Yes, sure.
How do you exchange? How do you make those exchanges of experience? Because I saw in your presentation things that you are developing that are also, for instance, developed in Belgium, and both are doing things the same direction without, it seems, consuming themselves.
Mm-hmm. No, we share those information. Of course, we share the information between the partners of the living lab, right? But the results, for instance, belong to all the partners, right? Not just to a single partner. So, for instance, Siemens would be allowed to sell an application they did within the living lab for Daimler Chrysler. They would also be allowed to sell it to Volkswagen. Maybe not a month later.
Hi, Jan Meyer from Uninep. I have an observation and a question. The observation is that I kind of missed the military application side of things, because I would imagine that they would be tremendously interested in wearable electronics. The question actually is, I can see a big socio-economic side to this whole development, and I'm thinking that this is a really interesting amplifier of the bad side of human behavior. Thinking in the direction of corporate espionage, thinking as a big amplification of the incidents with mobile phone cameras and locker rooms. Could you share some thoughts on that?
Okay. Your first observation might be correct, but we just don't deal with military applications. Okay. Second observation or second question is, of course, there is really some impact. And let me try to make it clear with an example. We are directed towards work processes in plants, for instance, right? And the workers usually don't deal very much with computers. But we have made the experience, once we give them a mobile computer, a wearable computer, and a head-mounted display, they feel empowered by that. They can now do much more complex tasks than before. So it's really an empowerment for the user. But of course, wearable computing, mobile solutions, you don't start from the technology side. You always start from the application side, and you start by working together with the end users, what they want to have. The whole Wear IT project is built up according to that. We didn't push technologies in the 4 scenarios to the users. We used off-the-shelf technology in the beginning, worked together with the users what they needed, and then started to develop the right technology. So for mobile solutions, it's even more important to work with the end users right from the beginning, because you wouldn't get the real thing. They wouldn't accept it if you wouldn't work with them from the very beginning. And all the other things you mentioned with locker rooms also, of course, that might happen also, but with all those mobile phones around, it's a much bigger problem. Right?
We have time for at least one more question.
It's a rather trivial question, I'm afraid, but how do you wash the wearable clothes? Is it dry clean only?
How to wash wearable clothes?
Actually, it's possible, right? They created fibers you can wash, right? And what we do in the beginning, or what we did in the beginning, we developed, for instance, a vest where we put in all the equipment. And of course, today, most of the equipment you can take out, so you can wash the clothes and put the equipment in again. But we are well underway. For instance, I know of a first test of RFID tags for clothes, where the antenna is done by textile integration, and they are currently testing that by washing it several thousand times.
So what happens when you get to airport security? With the wearable clothing, what happens, the wearable computing, what happens when you get to airport security?
Airport, oh, that's a good question. Usually you are not X-rayed when you go. And actually there is not too much metal on those fibers, and it's just about 1 micrometer, which is on those fibers, and you should be able to get through airport security quite easily.
Many of the projects that you presented seem to be some kind of contract R&D for big enterprises, but they develop very interesting products. So what are you doing in terms of allowing these products to be marketed by other companies, or in terms of technology transfer?
That really depends on the contract, of course, but in Germany, the results of a contract belong always to the university also, right? So we give licenses to the companies which do projects together with us. In European Union projects, of course, it's different, right? There's some public funding in there, so usually the consortium agreement states whom belongs what, right? And in such a large project, we couldn't make it possible, which would be the best thing, that everything belongs to all of them, all partners. So we have somehow compartmentalized the, let's say, the results to the companies which work on specific sub-projects. And within those sub-projects, the results belong to every company, every institution which works in that sub-project.
So, one last question? No, so then you? Okay.
So in the different examples you did show, those were examples related to businesses, so helping people to do their business more correctly, like we see here on the picture. Do you have also projects which are related more for the private use or for the home usage, like having wearable IT and tools, but for the day-to-day life, and not specifically dedicated for business? Do you have a project like that?
Of course, there's a whole new, completely other area where you use IT, for instance, in your daily life. And you can talk about intelligent objects there. MP3 players are an instance of that, of course. But, of course, there's a lot of different things you could imagine there. We just don't deal with that.
Okay, so I guess we have many reasons to thank our two speakers again, and I leave you to the coffee break.